Morning, students. Good morning, all of you. All are coming. Today I've decided to take the class not on live, but I'll be sending you the video on Zoom. So hope all of you got the message what I sent last night. Exactly 10 o'clock you would have opened the Zoom class and be attentive for the sixth unit poetry. The 6th unit prose I finished. I think I sent in the notes also last night. I don't know how many of you have seen the notes. That is the notes for the lesson, the last lesson. I sent in the brief answers. Please go through the notes what I have sent and take down the notes for the last lesson. And today I will be explaining to you all the poem No Men Are Foreign with the same concept. What concept was in the last lesson? It's all about love for one's country, the spirit of patriotism. Okay, the previous lesson, what we learnt in the last lesson, we understood that the French sir is trying to emphasize to the people that how important is one's own mother tongue. Okay, it's about the patriotic feeling towards one's country. Now in this lesson, No Men Are Foreign, written by James Falconer Kirkup. This poetry, No Men Are Foreign, written by James Falconer Kirkup, is an memorization poetry. The poetry what you have to memorize. On the examination point of view, this poetry is very important. So, as soon as I finish explaining the poetry to you, please take some time and try to memorize the poetry. The whole poem you have to memorize. They may ask from any line, either from the first verse, the second verse, or the last stanza, any stanza they'll ask in between. So learn the full poetry by heart. So here in this poetry, James Falconer Kirkup, 1918 to 2009. He's an English poet. James Falconer Kirkup is an English poet. He travelled a lot. Okay, he was a great translator and he wrote over 30 books, including autobiographies, novels and plays. He wrote his first book of poetry, The Drowned Sailor, which was published in 1947. So there are many books written by this poet James Falconer Kirkup. So in this poetry, No Men Are Foreign, James Falconer Kirkup is trying to emphasize or trying to make people understand. He's saying that men may be different. They may come from different countries. We may belong to different countries, but still we all belong to one human race. Okay, we all belong to one human race. So here the poem tells us why we must not hate our brothers and sisters who live in different countries of the world. So the first, I'll just tell you all the gist of this poetry. Then I'll read out the poetic lines and explain to you all line by line. So in the first stanza, the poet begins the poetry by saying, he says that men are different from each other simply on the basis of from which country they come from. They may fight for one particular thing. Suppose if they take for instance in the army, the defense, the army soldiers meet each other with two different parties, that is opposite parties. One may belong to one country and the other one may belong to another country. But still all fight for one particular reason. They may fight for the army of the country, but underneath the uniform, what is there? The same human body. They may have different uniform. Just take for example in the cricket team itself we'll take. One country's uniform color is yellow, one country's team color, uniform color is blue, another country is green. They may belong to different countries. They may have different colors in the uniform, but underneath the uniform all have the same human, all having the same human body. That's what the poet is trying to explain the first stanza. They are all similar, all are same. Okay, our opponents who are army soldiers, they may live and breathe just as we do. So they, whatever they breathe, whatever air they breathe, it doesn't mean that we breathe different air and that country is breathing different air. All are breathing the same air, all are drinking the same water, all are living on the same earth, all one particular earth. So moreover, every man will have to lie on the same earth. That is when he dies. When a man dies, what happens? One person won't float in the air, another person will be buried under the earth. No, all will have to be buried under one particular earth. That's what he's saying in this first stanza. Okay, every man will have to lie in the earth at one time or the other, one day or the other. Everyone has to die, and all have to go to the down under the same earth. This is all men have to die, and all piece of land are put same to everyone and everybody. So as he is reading the poetry, each stanza is trying to make giving more stress about the earth which we live in. The earth that every human walks is the same earth every human being is walking upon. The others around the world depend on the same air, the same water and same sun. We don't have 4 suns or 21 suns or 40 sun and other, not SON sun, SUN sun, Surya Velcham. All having one sun, one. So all have they are living under the same shade of the same light of the sun. So we'll have the same, we have to breathe the same air, we have the same water and same sun. So they eat out of peaceful harvest. Every human being have to eat the same harvest what their crops is trying to yield them. Okay, so their hands have the same lines of hard work. Whatever work the human hand is doing, each one is doing the same intention of doing some hard work. So the eyes see the same, they sleep and they wake like us. Nobody is having special eyes, all having the same mind. And that eye is meant for sleeping, waking up and seeing the world just as the same. So the common life is understood by everyone. The common life in this poetry, as a poet rises, everybody sees understand the same common thing. So we must remember that if we try to hate others, it means we are hating ourselves. So we should not say, I don't like the Pakistani people, I don't like those foreigners, I don't like this English people, I don't like, you can't say anything. If you say you hate those people, that means you are hating your own self. So here he is trying to make the people understand we should learn to love each other. Whichever country may belong to, we should not show any hatred towards others. So we must remember, if we try to hate others, it means we are trying to hate our own selves. When we try to use weapons against others, we are only ruining the human beings on the earth. Say for example, in the war, a battle is going on, a war is taking place. When the war is taking place, so many people are killed, so much of destruction takes place. So much the earth is getting destroyed with all dead bodies, broken limbs, broken hands. All the earth is getting ruined. Ruined means the forts are broken, buildings are broken, the animals are killed. So many horses used in the war, they are being killed. So what happens? Everything gets destroyed, and the whole earth is getting a foul smell, dirty smell. So what happens? The earth is all mingled with rubbish. So we are only ruining. Ruining is what? We are only spoiling the earth due to fights. So when we try to use weapons against others, we are ruining human beings on the earth. So fire and dust destroy the purity of air that belongs to all. So by firing gunshots, throwing bombs at each other, the dust that is being created with YouTube wars, what happens? It only pollutes the earth. It only pollutes the earth. So what the point is saying here, fire and dust destroy the purity of air and that belongs to all human beings. So we must remember that no one is our enemy. All should be like each other. No one should be our enemy or foreigner. So we should not regard anyone as an enemy or foreigner, and no country is a strange land on this earth. So the whole earth belongs to one clan, that is a human beings. So in this poetry, the poet James Falconer Kirkup reminds us that all people who belong to the earth are similar, are same, and share the brotherhood of men. So though the colors of uniforms are different, it is the same human body that is lying behind every uniform. All walk on the same earth, see the same sun, inhale the same air, and use the water the same way. So they feed by peaceful harvest or starve during wartime. So the eyes also see the same things while awake and shut when asleep. So everywhere strength is overcome by true love shown towards each other. When one is taught hatred, it means we are hating our own self. We are cheating ourselves by when we are hating others. So when we hold weapons against each other during a wartime, we are only ruining the earth. The painful hell of fire and anger and dust which spoils the air and makes the air impure, which is inhaled by we human beings. So no one in earth is a stranger to anyone else, and no country or enemy or foreign land. So that's the summary of the poetry. Now I shall explain to you, read out the poem to you, and shall explain to you stanza by stanza. Pay attention. All of you open your books to the poetry. No men are foreign. Page number 179. All of you open English readers to page 179. I shall just explain to you, read out the poetry to you, and then explain it. No Men Are Foreign by James Falconer Kirkup. Remember, no men are strange, no country is foreign. Beneath all uniforms, a single body breathes. Like ours, the land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. They too, aware of sun and air and water, are fed by peaceful harvest, by war's long winter starved. Their hands are ours, and in their lines we read a labor not different from our own. Third stanza. Remember, they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep, and strength that can be won by love. In every land is common life that all can recognize and understand. Let us remember, whenever we are told to hate our brothers, it is ourselves that we shall dispossess, betray, condemn. Remember, we who take arms against each other, it is the human earth that we defy. Our hells of fire and dust outrage the innocence of air that is everywhere our own. Remember, no men are foreign and no countries strange. Do you understand the lines? You should try to, as you read the poetry, you should even understand the concept. So the first stanza, the poet is saying, remember. The poet is reminding us. The poet tells that men are not different from each other simply on the basis that they come from separate countries. Because just because they come from different countries doesn't mean we are different. They may fight for the army of the country, but beneath every uniform they are all similar. That means what? Everyone is having the same kind of body. Our opposite party, that is the opposite party whom we are fighting with, our opponent army soldiers live and breathe the same air. For them no special air, for us poor quality air, no. All are breathing the same air as we do. Most fights between two countries result from, why do you fight? We fight for a piece of land, we fight for a border, saying this territory belongs to us. For all these reasons we fight. So the most fights between two countries result from disputes over a piece of land. For a piece of land, for a particular territory we fight for. So however, all the land on earth is the same. Moreover, every man will have to lie on in the same earth. When a person dies, everyone has to go to the earth. He has to go to the dust. Because if he dies doesn't mean he will just fly straight to heaven. No. Everybody, whoever dies, will have to go down are buried under the earth. So that is, all men have to die and all pieces of land are same graveyards. Everyone is the same graveyards in which they fight. So that's what the poet is saying in the first line, first stanza. The second stanza is lines 5 to 8. The second stanza, they too aware of sun and air and water are fed by peaceful harvest by war's long winter sun. What is the poet is saying in these lines? The poet is trying to say, the poet gives further evidence of the unity of man. He says that those who live in other countries also depend on the same sun, the same air, the same water for their survival. For a man to survive, every man has to depend on the same sun, the same water and the same air for their survival. They too have seen peace and war. So everybody, for one person it is a peace, for some person it is a war, a fight. So during a peaceful period, they have a good harvest. So when there is no fight, when everything is peaceful between one nation and to another nation, they have a very quiet and peaceful life. So when they are having a peaceful life, definitely whatever they grow, they have a good harvest. Okay, good harvest means what? All good food crops. They get enough food crops. But when a war breaks out in the country, what happens? There's destruction. The people have shortage of food. There won't be supply of food because crops are not grown. Everywhere firing, smoke, dust. So what happens? Nobody is allowed to grow crops. So automatically what happens? People in the country will have to starve. So when there is no war, there is peace in the country, there is enough food for everybody in the country. But when there is war, definitely people will have to starve without food. Similarly, during the war period, just like a long winter, availability of food will be scarce. That means what? There won't be food at all. Just I explained to you, if there is a war, there won't be enough harvest and there will be complete famine or scarcity of food in the country, resulting in famine. So they look just like us and are descended from the same ancestors as we are. So the next stanza, the poet is trying to say, remember, they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep, and strength that can be won by love. In every land is common land, and all can recognize and understand. So in this line, the poet is saying, the poet is urging, the poet is asking us to keep our mind peaceful, not to think of fight or not to think of war between each other. We have to follow a similar type of lifestyle, and every human being has an inner resource of strength that we can use to help this fellow beings. So however, the resources, when war is going on, the resources of the country will go down. So the common people, despite the differences between various nations, there is one thing that they all have in common. The common people live the same kind of life everywhere. Therefore, we can recognize the presence of the life no matter where we travel in this wider world. So wherever we try to travel, we'll have to live the same kind of life. The next stanza, the poet is disagreeing against the efforts of military. He doesn't like he's disagreeing with them. He doesn't want this military, that is, people who are only trying to wage war against each other. Military and religious groups that encourage people to have wars with each other. Those groups are misguiding their own people. So when you have war, what happens? People are only misguiding the common people, and the common people are made to suffer. They are asking the followers to hate the opponents without realizing that they are our own brothers. It is a form of self-destruction. Any hatred that we show on any member of the human race is equivalent to a betrayal towards the people. So if we kill people of another country, we are endangering human beings as a whole and their survival on earth. So we should not have this revengeful attitude by having vengeance against each other. When we have vengeance, we only end up in having a fight, and by having a fight, only a war will break out. The war breaks out, what happens? The whole earth is being destroyed, it is being ruined. So the last stanza, the poet is saying, remember, we should poet specifies the impacts of war. When war takes place, how severely it damages the human race. If we, the guardians of the earth, were to die as a result of the war, then there would be no one left to take care of the home that our ancestors had passed on to us. So in the war we are killed. Who will take care of our homes, which our ancestors, our grandparents have left for us? So we then have nothing to pass on to our next generation. There won't be anything. Suppose this generation, in a war we are killed. Next generation, they won't live to see anything. The future generation will won't have anything to see. So here the poet is saying we would then have nothing to pass on to our future generations. So in the last lines, the poet compares wartime with hell. What means what? War means it's just like a hell. It's just worse than a hell. So in war, as in hell, there is fire and smoke everywhere. That is the experience of hell when we have a war on this earth. So as a result of this, the earth is becoming poisoned due to the war. Many people are killed, everything is getting spoiled, and we are only poisoning the earth because of the dead bodies. The very air that we breathe is becoming impure and will not be able to sustain human life for much longer. That is why the poet encourages us not to wage war on our fellow men. So the poet is saying, please do not ever think of waging war with each other. Learn to live in peace. Learn to live in peace. If you only think of a fight, you'll only end up in a war. So here he's saying, he's encouraging us not to wage war on our fellow men, thinking they are foreigners and their countries are unlike our own. So the main concept of this poetry is what? All men are equal. We should not think or regard anyone as foreigner. We should always learn to live in peace with each other. That is the poetry, no men are foreign. All of you understood? Again, I shall read the poetry if time is there. I think time is up, I think. No? Time up? Anyway, you all try to read the poem. On the Friday's online class, I shall read the poetry and make you all repeat the poetry after me. So meanwhile, please write down the notes for the prose lesson. That is the last lesson. I have sent the question answers to you. At least the brief answers are sent. Please take it down and please memorize the next poetry. That is, no men are foreign. Okay, children, all are busy for your competitions. School competitions. You will give me your names. Various competitions that's going to be held from October 27th. All are given names, so all those are given names. Wish you all the best, do well, and see you again next the coming Friday. Coming Friday, I shall read the poetry and make you repeat the poetry. Okay, students, shall we wind up? Okay then, bye bye.